everyone. We are live actually on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. And I'm here to discuss with Amii Baranrd Bahn. And there is some issue here. Yeah. Hi, Amii.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Emmy. I know it's quite late for you in California. Everyone, Emmy is joining us from California, and it's like 8 in the night,
That's
right?
okay. I'm sure you're very used to doing this as well. It's a privilege to speak with India and with Asia. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And this is episode 18 of Growth Mindset Conversations. Welcome, Amy, to Growth Mindset Conversations. And let me introduce Amy to all of you. I'm going to share a short introduction here, though I'm sure that it will not do complete justice to who she is and the impact she's creating. A former Fortune Global 50 executive, Amii Baranrd Bahn is a consultant to C-suite and leaders at global companies like Bank of the West, Adobe, and The Gap. Recognized by Forbes as one of the top coaches for legal and compliance executives, she's member of Marshall Goldsmith 100 Coaches. Amii guest lectures at Stanford and UC Berkley. She's a contributor to Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, and Compliance Week, and is a fellow of Harvard Institute of Coaching. Amii is also an author of a beautiful book, very nice book called the Pi Guidebook. We will hear more about this book from the author herself. Today, Amii is here to help us with the very crucial topic of how to know and ensure that you are continuously growing. Welcome, Amii. It's my honor to have you as a guest in the episode 18 of Growth Mindset Conversations.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And let me also acknowledge all of you who are joining us live. You can write in your questions if you have any on the topic. I'll definitely get your questions to Amii. Okay, let's start the conversation, Amii. And whosoever is live, if you can put something in comment box so that we know, okay, yes, we have. So people can see us live. All good. Okay, Amii. So starting the conversation of growth mindset.
Yes.
So first question to you is, what is growth mindset for Amii Baranrd Bahn?
Great question. So a growth mindset to me is always being curious, staying humble, and being aware of what I don't know, which sometimes comes to me in the form of frustration or anger or irritation. But if I really listen to it, if I'm disappointed in how I've done something, to turn it into a positive, I think a growth mindset means that you don't sit in your anger and you don't berate yourself. You don't criticize yourself. You don't sit in judgment. You can do that for a little while, and that's normal.
Yeah.
That's one of the stages. But then if you can move to realizing, okay, this is important enough to me to actually make a change and I want to learn about it, that for me demonstrates a growth mindset. And that demonstrates what I think a lot of us need right now. It's been a very difficult year, no matter where you are in the world.
Absolutely.
In some places, much harder than others. And so I want to acknowledge that. And so I think a radical self-reliance would be how I would describe ultimately a growth mindset, which is your ability to get over your ego, which is easier said than done. It sounds very simple, but it's not easy. And you think, okay, what was my part in this? And how can I learn from this? And how can I move forward?
Yeah. And I loved this definition of growth mindset. Being curious, being there wherever you are, but now also growing, learning from whatever has happened to you, whatever has happened to the situation, and then growing from, not kind of dwell in that situation, growing further. Wow. Thank you for sharing that beautiful definition. So, moving towards today's topic, how to know and ensure that you are continuously growing. So, I'm sure my audience here, listeners, would be very keen to know more your point of view about this particular topic. So, my question to you is: we talk a lot about growth mindset. How does someone actually know that they are actually growing?
It's a great question. I think I know for myself, I know I'm growing when it's a little bit painful, when I'm out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Often that's when I've set a goal, whether it's a few years ago, it was becoming a better public speaker and actually becoming comfortable having conversations like this with you, Manbir, which a few years ago I would have been very, very nervous about. So I know I've grown because I'm actually not afraid anymore and I'm enjoying this and I'm so grateful to be with you. So a few years ago, that was a growth area for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
think after you've grown, once you're more comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
um, and while you're going through it, it can be very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah.
But so if you feel, oh, this is kind of scary, but it's also exciting, that can be a sign, I think. Letting go of old hurts or old things that were traumatizing to you in the past. It may have taken
Mm-hmm.
many,
Mm-hmm.
even years, depending on what the
Yeah.
situation was to get through. Letting go of that tells you you're
Mm-hmm.
growing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Changing your dreams,
Mm-hmm.
having a different dream because something different inspires you. And as we go through changes in life and different decades of our life, I think our values don't change, but how we express them can. And
Yeah.
what's meaningful to us and how we spend our time. I know what's meaningful to me now in my 50s is very different than what was meaningful to me in my 30s. So
Absolutely.
those kinds
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah. 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 So you're growing internally as well as externally,
Mm.
right? You might be growing on the designations, or as you said, as a speaker, you're also growing internally. You're being comfortable with those pains and surfing through those pains. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember when I did my first episode of Growth Mindset Conversation, I was very nervous. I was like, okay, would I be able to do it? But here we are on the 18th episode. Yeah, so I'm
Yes.
loving it. Yeah, yeah, there is a lot of growth here. So, Emmy, let's talk about your new book, the PI Guidebook. So, first of all, what is PI here, and how does your new book help in a leader's growth? What is this book all about, actually? So, do share, that with our listeners and viewers today.
It's really all about growth. So it fits really nicely with your theme and with
Yeah.
your personal mission. My feeling is that one of the most important things you can do for your career is to own it and to realize that really ultimately only you are responsible for your career. And that while other companies, you may be lucky and you may have a boss or a mentor that supports you, that's not always the case. And things
Mm-hmm.
happen in the world that can make it difficult for
Yeah.
your company's interests to be the same as yours. And so
Yeah.
you need to always be thinking about what you can control, what's in
Yeah.
your focus of control. And achieving an exceptional career really requires advanced planning and investing in yourself. And so the leadership tool that I launched, the Promotability Index, which is free, it's 82 questions. It's on my website. You can Google it. Anyone can take it anywhere at any point in their career, whether they're a CEO or just starting out. And you get a score based on 5 dimensions of key leadership areas
Mm-hmm.
that I've found, from being a chief human resources officer, being a Fortune 5 global compliance officer, and an attorney and an employment lawyer. Just in terms of I've been in the room where we've had to decide who to lay off, who keeps their job, who we want to retain, who is
Yeah.
considered a star player, who gets promoted, who's
Mm-hmm.
in the C-suite, and who presents to the corporate board and who does not. And so
Yeah.
the 5 key elements that I came up with based on all that experience are self-awareness, which is the first and most fundamental. The second is external awareness, which is your impact on others and people's perceptions of you. The third is strategic thinking and whether people perceive that you are a strategic thinker. The fourth is executive presence and whether you inspire confidence by your presence and how your body language and how you present to others and your gravitas, your ability to stay calm under pressure. And then fifth is thought leadership and the degree to which you're seen as a thought leader in your area of expertise and how you share that with others and help mentor and inspire other people.
Yeah. Amazing. And all these 5 components, from executive presence to self-awareness to strategic thinking to external awareness, looks like it's holistic. And I went through your this book, and I think it's really wholesome, holistic, and it really brings a very good perspective. But I'm curious on one thing here, Amii, that because you have PI promotability index test also, score also, there's so many assessments out there from 360 to personality test. Then how is it different?
I would say it's different because it's not a personality test, and it is really a growth engine. It's a tool for companies and for individuals. For individuals, it gives people back, I hope, and that was my mission, to share everything I knew about promotions that I wish I had known when I was working my way up to the C-suite, because I had a stay-at-home mother. And she was wonderful, and she couldn't tell me anything about business. And so I had to learn it myself. And so there's a lot of wisdom from colleagues and mentors and just hard-earned experience in there. And for organizations, it was a way to reverse engineer promotions. And my hope is for organizations who might otherwise just promote someone who's popular and who is easy to get along with, that they would think more consciously about who are they promoting and why, and what are the objective criteria, and to a certain extent, reducing the risk of bias, because we know that we tend to hang out with people that are like us. So if we want to have diverse companies, which I personally believe are stronger companies, and are more resilient companies and more sustainable companies, you need different kinds of personalities, you need different kinds of people. And so if we are to think about that, something like the Promotability Index gives you a language in your organization to think about more objective criteria about what are the skills and knowledge and abilities that people are possessing, and how can I have conversations with my team about what they need. One of the most frustrating things that I've heard from my clients, and that I heard when I was a young up-and-coming professional, was when I would say, hey, I'm really interested in more responsibility, I would hear, oh, thank you, but you're just not ready yet.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's nothing more frustrating than hearing this, right? Because it's not actionable. What are you supposed to do with that? You're not ready. Can you be a little more specific? Is it my hairstyle? Is it my hairstyle? Is it,
Absolutely.
it's what do I need? Do I need better presentation skills? Do I need to set boundaries better? Do I need to delegate more? Do I need to get better at having difficult conversations? Am I not going to the right meetings? Am I very strategic in my own mind, but I'm an introvert and I'm not sharing that, and so no one can see it?
Yeah.
Am I not advocating for myself in the right way? I can be too aggressive, or I might be too passive. Neither one of those is good. You have to be right in the middle. So that's partly what was really a huge motivator for me. And I created the assessment first, and then people said they wanted more. And so then I wrote the guidebook.
Awesome. And to everyone who's watching here or who will be watching the recording, this assessment is, you can access that assessment. I would be adding that link in the show note also. And it's very easy to do assessment. It's very helpful. So, Amy, what I'm understanding is, this PI guidebook and assessment is answering $1 million question. Am I ready for the next level or not?
Mm.
And also to me, to my leader, and to the HR person, right? It's kind of a
Yes,
three-prong here.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, wonderful. So, going, talking more about the PI guidebook and this promotability index. You have extensively worked as an executive, as a coach. You bring that different perspective on the table. So, what are the key elements of growth, which is the one people underestimate? And also, if you can give us an example of a well-known leader who you think best demonstrates one of those elements.
Sure. There are the five key elements that we've talked about. And
Okay.
I've broken them down in a way that leaders can study them independently, and in a fun, easy, free way, you can decide how you stack up. In an ideal world, you would have you would take the assessment, and then you would have a
Mhm.
conversation with your boss to validate your perception, to see, am I coming across the way that I perceive myself? And that's a very valuable conversation if you have that level of trust with your manager.
Mhm.
And I've had clients and colleagues who have said that simply having that conversation with their manager brings a lot of respect to you as an employee, because they realize how much you want to grow and that you care and that you want to know, you're seeking out their opinion. So simply by having the conversation, you already get points, which is a good
Yeah.
thing. And then ideally, you also get very valuable information about, do they agree? What are the top 2 or 3 areas that they think you should work on? It can lead to a very helpful conversation for your growth. But I would say that the one area that leaders underestimate the most is external awareness, the second of the 5 key elements. And I
Okay.
recently published an article for Harvard Business Review called Promotability. It's not just about your skills, it's about your relationships. And
Yeah.
what I find, Manbir, is that as we grow in our careers, and especially if we have a technical specialty like technology or law or medicine, we have been rewarded and have often over-indexed on our technical knowledge, potentially at the expense of our relationships. Much of college and graduate school is about competition, and
Yeah.
it's about being in the top 10% or being summa cum laude or whatever it's called in your country, getting the blue ribbon. And the downside to that is
Yeah.
that as you get older, you realize, oh, that could be my boss, or that could be someone who I would love to have work for me, or that might be someone who's working for the hot company that I want to work for and I'm ready to leave and I would like to call them up. But maybe you didn't do such a great job building a friendly relationship with them. And so it's not going to happen. So what I think I wish I had known, and sometimes, people ask me, what do I wish I could tell my younger self? And what I would say is realize the world is a very small place, and
Yeah.
be more aware of, even if it's hard, even if you don't naturally get along with people, try to overcome, again, we've talked about this a bit, overcome your ego and
Yeah.
find a common ground. There's always usually something that you
Yeah.
can respect or appreciate about
Yeah.
someone else. And so
Yeah.
if you can do that and appreciate that, it will help, because promotions are not always fair and they're not rational. When it comes down to promotions, your skills and knowledge and abilities are really just the ticket to the game. And it really comes down to relationships. And I've been in too many, what in the United States in HR we would call 9-box meetings, where people are literally ranked, in a 9-box in terms of promotable
Yeah.
now, promotable, later. And so of course you have to be good at what you're supposed to do, but it's
Yeah.
relationships and working with other people that are going to get you that promotion, and that are going to get you
Yeah.
a sponsor in that meeting that's going to speak for you and say, yes, that
Yeah.
person would be great at leading the team or replacing so-and-so. So it's really important to invest in those relationships and learn, number one, what impact your behavior has on others. And number
Yeah.
two, how you're perceived. which may not be your own personal truth, but it's important to know how other people perceive you, because if you have blind spots, then you can't address them. And so that's where I often work with my clients on helping to expose blind spots so that they can then get over those and get where they want to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very holistic approach. And I also believe that, to anybody who's ever is listening, you don't have to do it all alone. You can have mentors, you can have coaches, you can have somebody who's actually helping you in all these, even building relationships. If you have blind spots working on them. What do you think, Amii?
Yes, it's I think of it like having a personal trainer. If you want to go faster, get some help.
Yeah. And we have a question from the audience. Dr. Vishal Shah is asking, any change in the definition of careers now post-pandemic? What's your thought?
Definition of careers?
Yeah, has it changed after pandemic?
I think not for me, because I think we only rent our jobs. So I think if you think of your career is, I would say, where you work over your lifespan. Yeah. So careers, I don't think have changed, but jobs, I think it's healthiest, and it's always been this way, whether people wanted to think about it this way or not. But it's always been that we rent our jobs, and it's always, what have you done for me lately? And complacency is dangerous, particularly in a rapid VUCA kind of environment like we have right now, where the velocity of change is extreme, where there's incredible pressure on CEOs that I coach and leaders. They're having to make very difficult decisions every day. Some companies have thrived during this time, and others have not survived. And there's everything in between. And so it's important to be thinking about your skill set, know where you stand, and be continually learning. I think it's what you mentioned in the beginning, Manbir, which is growth mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with you, Amii. I guess, my point of view on that would be continuous growth and learning is very, very important. So that's why, this conversation, what we are doing, it's more important post-pandemic than before pandemic, actually. That how do you know that you are growing? So yes, that's what might have changed. Another thing, I guess, not about careers, but from work standpoint, I guess there is more reiteration on human to human connections, human bonds. There's need to develop those human connections. And as Amii is saying, relationships, need for building those relationships, those human connections is more important post pandemic, because people need to be cared for. People need to connect at emotional level. Yeah.
They do.
Okay. Yeah. So, Amii, when we talk about promotions, when we talk about career growth, one thing people always struggle is initiating the first conversation about their promotion with their managers, with HR. So, what is your number one tip for people, for employees to initiate a conversation about their promotion with their manager?
That's a great question. I'll start with the number one mistake that most people make. The number one mistake that most people make is they bring up promotion at the same time as their annual compensation review. And what I think most professionals who have not been people managers yet don't realize is that these conversations about compensation are extremely stressful to managers. Usually a manager is given a very limited budget, depending on how the business has done and their business unit has done, and they have to figure out a way to spread it across the team. And they usually don't get to do everything that they would like, or don't have enough money, frankly, to spread around. So these are very, very difficult, stressful conversations. So my number one tip is, don't have a developmental discussion with your boss during compensation time. They don't have the mental mindset to be able to truly give you what you need which is support and honest feedback. They're pretty stressed out in most cases. The ones that really care, it's a dreaded time of year. And for companies that run on a calendar year, fiscal year, that's usually around February, March, where you'd be delivered your bonus or, whether you got a promotion. So I would say, number one, think of your manager and try to have empathy for them. And someday you will hopefully be them. And so think about what it would be like for you if you only had 3% to give out amongst a team of 10 people or however many it is, and stay away from that time frame. And right about now, at least in the United States, usually around August, September is a pretty good time to have a developmental discussion, because it's very far away from most companies' fiscal year where compensation is given. And so you can pick your timing. Most of us are on Zoom right now, depending on the industry. So, I would give advance warning and just say, hey, I would really appreciate if we would spend 15 minutes at our next one-on-one conversation. I am very interested in learning how I'm doing, how you view my contributions to the company, and I really would love to continue to grow at this company. And so give a heads up, and then hopefully your manager says, great, and they will appreciate the advance notice. They don't like to be blindsided. That's, again, stressful. So I want to continue to emphasize that it's an employee's responsibility, in my opinion. It's part of the radical self-reliance theory, is that it's your responsibility to make your manager comfortable, to give you the information you need to continue to move forward. And because most people think it's their boss's responsibility, and it's not. It's yours. And you will get a lot more out of it if you have that mindset that I need to make them feel comfortable. They have information I need. It's helpful to me. I'm the one that's being helped. So I need to help them make it easy. So if you make it easy for them, then you can ask them. And some managers are better at giving feedback than others. Some are terrible at it. We've all been there. Some are great, and good luck.
Absolutely.
And I'm so happy for you if that's it, but I know some are not. And so I'll give you a tip for that usually works if you have a manager that has a very hard time or is terrified of giving feedback. Some technical specialists are promoted based on their technical skills and not because they're a great manager, right? We've also all probably been there. And so those people can sometimes not be good at giving feedback. So one thing you can do is try to make it easy for them and say, I would just love to ask you one question. What one thing could I do that would help me be more effective in my job?
Awesome.
And then pause and be quiet and resist the urge to say anything else. And depending on who you are, if you're like me, that's really hard. But, and just wait. And if you allow the silence to come, they will usually realize it's a very reasonable request. It's very specific. You're just asking for one thing, and it could be tiny or it could be big. It could be just a little thing, like show up earlier to meetings because I might finish early and that would give me an extra 15 minutes to prepare for my next meeting. Or it might be, we need to get better at presentations. There's a big presentation coming up in a few months, and if you want it and you work at it, I'll let you do it, but I need to see you get better, right? It can be so many things like that. And so if your boss won't give you that feedback, and it's very rare, but I have heard of that, ask a peer. And this might be a surprise as well, but particularly ask a peer that you might not naturally get along with. Because sometimes they will, and it shows courage. It does require courage, and it shows vulnerability. And it can be a really amazing bonding experience that can potentially get you over whatever hurdle you have with whatever's holding you back, whatever obstacle you have with that chemistry with that person, because it shows respect. And again, you're being vulnerable. And sometimes our frenemies give us the most honest feedback that no one else would be willing to give us. And it's a remarkable growth opportunity.
Awesome. Very practical strategies and suggestions, Amy. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. It's awesome. And I think it's, very well circled back to where we started. Own it, learn, and grow from there. Actually own it is the message, right? So own it. It's your call. It's not somebody else's responsibility. It's your responsibility to talk about it. And also another thing where we started was getting out of your comfort zone. That's
Yes.
where the whole growth and learning lies. And you beautifully brought that point again in this particular segment, that go out of your comfort zone. Ask somebody who you might not be comfortable talking to. Yeah,
They'll appreciate it.
awesome. Yeah.
It's a wonderful way to be powerful in a different way
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because they
Awesome.
won't necessarily expect it. So
Yes.
I've built some remarkable. I've had to work with some very difficult people over my career, and it's not always easy. And so you have to be a little creative sometimes around how can I bridge this gap. This is not someone I
Yes.
would naturally be attracted to hanging out with or having a conversation about the business with, and especially on Zoom, or if you're running a global team, as many of my clients are, even before COVID, many of them rarely got to be in person with their team members. So for them, frankly, COVID wasn't that much different. So
Yeah.
learning to lead virtually and finding that connection is important.
Yeah. 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 And I really feel like when you're saying is that we can do a full episode on how to build connection with somebody. You are not gelling with somebody you don't like. So it's such a
That's true.
deep conversation. We can have. Uh, Annie, as we are coming to end of this episode, so I would really keen to know that where can people find your book? How
Oh,
can
sure.
they get your book?
They can go to my website at
Mm-hmm.
barnardbahn.com. So it's BARNARDBAHN.com. And you'll see a little tab that says Promotability Index. You can take the free 82 question assessment there, which is beautifully designed for mobile as well as online. And that'll give you a PDF report. And I hope it will inspire you and help you ask questions of yourself. It's designed to be creative and positive and to engage the creative growth mindset, as opposed to being more. Some of the other, you asked earlier about other assessments. I tried to stay away from being
Yeah.
judgmental or putting people in a box. I think people learn very differently, and I think that our
Yeah.
values and motivators are different, and careers
Yeah.
are not linear. They're
Yeah.
mine's been like this. If I were to draw
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
box, if anyone
Absolutely.
looks at my LinkedIn profile, you can see that. I've taken a bunch of different jumps and leaps that now might look like it was all planned, but it was not at all. It was a bunch of bets and thoughts and just going with my heart or my mind, depending on the circumstance. So anyway, I wish
Yeah.
everyone the best with their careers, and I think your webcast is so valuable for everyone, Manbir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amy, for your kind words. And I'm sure people will really would love to go for the assessment and buy the book. It's really an awesome book. Thank you so much, Amy, for this awesome discussion and great insights. Appreciate your time and value you have created for all of us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you everyone for joining us live. And if you're watching this as a recording, thanks to you too. Hope you have got value out of this and you will implement some of the simple learnings Amy has shared. See you all again in the next episode of this series. Thank you and all the very best. Thank you, Amy. Thank you once again.
Yeah.
Bye bye.